Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am humble host, Mr. David Knoll, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers, and I greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite Creator. And I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. So, how y'all doing out there, Chloe and Dead End Collection of Stuff? Collective. Wait. Oh, it's collective. And it's almost 12:20. So y'all know what that means. It's a 20 time, right? But this little subject has been, the spirits give me these little topics for discussion. And we've kind of touched upon it in other conversations that I've had with y'all. And it's like, there are so many people that are, oh, life is so good and life is grand and then there are people who are like, life sucks and F this, I don't want to be here. They want to commit suicide. There's depression. And, I realize that there are some people who one might consider that they're fortunate. And it's like, okay, well, let's have a little ace that turn to your son. Life is like a roller coaster. Absolutely. A big roller coaster, because some of them drops just, but so, and life is like absolutely like a roller coaster, but, there in one day you could be happy as hell. And by the end of the day, you could be the sorriest person in the world and wish you were dead. And I'm kind of sort of in that. In back when I was about 18 years old, I had just gotten it was about this time of year, and had just gotten my income tax check back, right? So I went down and bought this pickup truck, right? Paid cash for it, right? It was a 64 or a 65 uh, um, international Studebaker kind of thing. Hey, that way, what you doing? And so um, by the end of the day, a drunk man had come through a light and had literally trashed the truck, put three of us in the hospital, and totaled my truck and almost killed us. Gave me head concussions, neck issues. I mean, it was bad. Hey, Tracy B, how you doing? So from the beginning of the day, which, total elation, I'm getting me a vehicle. It was one of the first vehicles I had owned on my own, and I went down, paid cash for it. And I was so happy. I had a pickup truck. And by that afternoon, like 5 hours later, I was in the hospital with head concussions and lots of bad problems that still, in a way, haunt me to this day. From because I hit the windshield so hard, and I had also cracked the back window. But so I understand that in one day's time you can be deliriously happy. And I'm not just speaking about me, but I'm just speaking about circumstances. Okay. So, what makes a person happy? Circumstances. Well, a friend of mine came over. This is true. A friend of mine came over today before I went to the doctor, and we sat and had a lovely conversation and a little bit of walkabout in the yard, looking at how everything is blooming when it shouldn't be, and whether or not it's going to make it this spring or not. But had a lovely, absolutely lovely visit, and had not anticipated this person was coming. Hey, Barry, how are you? Tracy B. That way I used to take a bite of a piece of chocolate and put it back if it didn't taste good. Oh, are you the one with the half-eaten pieces of chocolate in the refrigerator? But but I mean, I wasn't expecting anybody to come today. Um, I was expecting to go to the doctor, which I did, and every blood pressure and everything's good. So thumbs up with that. Um, so it's nice to continue getting good results back. Let me tell you, when the blood workup comes back and everything's normal, at my age, that we love that kind of thing. But anyway, but I was not expecting the visit. And I was not expecting, especially some of the conversation that we had. And some of the conversation was about dream time and about, like kind of future events where you say, "Oh my God, a deja vu." You know, I've been here before. I've done this before. And so it's like, um, wait a minute. So is life good or is life bad? Now, is life good all the time? Or does it have its moments? Or, and thus the roller coaster, right? The analogy of the roller coaster. I missed the 20, y'all, because I was yakking. What time is it? How far did I miss it? 12:22. Okay, I'm only a couple minutes. Inner peace is hard to break when one has it. Yep, I would agree with that. Although we can break our own inner peace, and that's depending on circumstances. Anyway, cheers, y'all. I used to be there. That was a good one. Ooh-wee. I used to be a very, very angry person. I was talking with my friend today, and I said, and I've talked with you, most of you, about this before in other videos about how I used to have someone ride in the truck with me, and her name was White Dove. She said from the Cherokee Nation, and she used to sit in the truck over there, beautiful white buckskin, and she would tell me things about how to control my anger and how to um, deal with people individually and how to present myself in such a way that was truly me. But she pointed out that I was not listening to what I was saying. And so I had to listen to what I was saying and also my tone of voice, also my facial expressions, my body language. And I've talked about this in a video not too long ago. But that all of it made a great difference. And she, if I'd had some kind of run in during the day on the way home, I'd look over there and she's sitting in there by the dash light. And I'm going, and she goes, "So, what did you learn today, Hawkeye?" And I'm like, I learned that I could mess up really quick. And it would only a few words or a glance or a tone of voice that some people just go off. So how you going to fix this? Well, I don't know. Well, so it was always an hour drive either way, right? So I was 2 hours on the road every day for 7 years. And so I had a lot of time to think about stuff, you know. But riding with White Dove, you know, what? Yeah, it was an apparition. I could see her sitting there. And it was sort of like Casper the Friendly Ghost kind of deal. But the information that she shared and working out how she'd say, "Well, so I saw you today and you had an argument and blah blah, so how'd that work out for you, Hawkeye?" "Well, so what should I do about?" She would give me suggestions. "Well, what about this and what about that?" And I would reflect on the conversation, how I handled it, how they handled it. So, but in that, the lessons were great. So, and oh my God, the lessons were so great. But I realized that there was anger in my voice, there was anger in my actions that had nothing to do with the people I was dealing with. I was dealing with anger and unhappiness on my own. And I was transposing that unknown anger, not to them in any way. I didn't have nothing, but it was coming out of me. So I had to work with my own anger issue. So it did not, they could not hear it in my voice, even though it had nothing to do with them. Um, but it had to do with me and other things and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, she had to point that out and go, you don't want these people to think you're angry all the time, do you? Well, no. Well, but that's how you're coming across to them. No, I'm not, but I'm not mad at them. But you're coming across that way. Oh. And here's the thing, you can either be stubborn and learn and go, well, I'm not the one it's their fault because they're not, but that's not effective communication. Well, but I'm right and they're wrong. They're the ones that are mistaken. I'm not angry at them. What the hell's wrong with these people? Yeah, you got to stop right there, Hawkeye. You got to back that boat up or bus or whatever it is you may be riding in, or take two steps back and go, look at this situation. Don't care whether you're right or wrong, Dave, Hawkeye. It's whether or not you can communicate with these people. And if you're going to go in there headstrong all the time and pushing your way upon them and being, and if they don't see things your way, they can hear the anger in your voice, you're going to lose the conversation. And I did. And she goes, so what'd you learn today, Hawkeye? I learned that I can be strong without showing any kind of emotion. I can learn how to choose my words differently. I can go in with a better attitude. Well, how y'all doing today? Okay. Heard you had a machine breakdown. Yep. Damn thing broke. Blah, blah, blah. Well, we tried our best yesterday to fix this son of a gun. So what do you think's wrong with it, y'all? Blah, 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 blah. Versus, well, I come over here. We fixed this machine yesterday. What'd y'all do to it to break it? Which is what some of the maintenance men would do to these ladies. And I went in with like, so it broke, huh? What happened? Some gremlin come in and beat the machine up on third shift or something, So I would blame it on some other imaginary entity, which always made them laugh. We don't know, Mr. Dave, blah, 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 blah. How's it happen? What's going on? Let me see how oh, well, let's adjust this and see, but, whatever the situation. But as soon as I changed my tone of voice, as soon as I changed mannerisms, as soon as I approached people differently, more with a smile and kept my personal, whatever the hell was going on, emotions out of it. So, but what's this got to do with right or wrong, good or bad? Because it changed that a bad day could turn into good simply by going in and repairing the day before. You're going to say, I realized yesterday, ladies, that I was angry at something and it came across wrong, and I come over here to apologize, and I just want to let y'all know that sometimes stuff just bothers the crap out of us, and I didn't mean, if it sounded like I was taking it out on y'all, I apologize, and I just, y'all have a good day and leave. And oh my God, how many people will go back and apologize for their behavior? Well, I'm the engineer. I'm the supervisor. I don't have to apologize for how I act with these people. I'm the fucking supervisor. If I tell you, by God, get up off your ass and go to work, then and if you get pissed off about it, then there's the door. You don't get much done that way, right? Now you have to be firm, but you don't have to be a butthole about it, right? So learn to be firm. Learn to say, now listen, now this is real important, but find something that is like, and listen, this is important because if these products are bad, you're going to lose your job. I ain't going to fire you. You're going to lose it because of poor product. They're going to find somebody else to do this. Now, do you want to lose your job? Then let's figure out how to do this. So, don't care one way or the other personally, but if you want to keep working here, and then we've got to learn how to work this out. That is impersonal. I don't care, but I will show you and I will work with you to do the best of our ability to work this out. So you can take a bad situation and either make it worse, and I'm always right and I'm the supervisor, I'm the engineer, and I know what the F I'm talking about, and you bet, to being more compassionate, which was in the cards tonight, by the way, compassion. So you be compassionate and still be firm, you know. Well, we got to get this done. Well, but Mr. Dave and blah blah blah. I said, okay, but listen, you understand we got to get this done, right? Yeah, okay. You understand, right? Now let's work it out. Let's figure. But you understand, we got to get this. We got to get her done, right? Okay, let's get her done then. So humble, yes. There was, and I thought I was being humble, but my tone of voice and my mannerisms and the things that White Dove pointed out to me, that spirit guide during that time was just unfathomable. But here's the deal. If you cannot truly look at yourself, if you cannot truly say, well, wait a minute, I'm right. I don't have to explain nothing to these mothers. I don't have to blah, 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 blah. I'm the one. If you have that kind of attitude, eh, so you have to be willing to make the change. You have to be willing to alter what, hey, Brian, I was thinking of you the other day. Lord have mercy. It's so good to see you. I was looking through some stuff and I was like, I wonder if I've still got Brian's phone number. I hope you're doing well, my friend. I'm doing best I can under the circumstances. I am not lying. I, it might have been a week ago, maybe, but it has been very recently. I was thinking about you, Brian, and wondering, man, I hope he's doing okay. I know I promised to go down there, and then I had the heart attack, But anyway, God love you, Brian. Um, so, but in this time of stuff, so life can be horseshit because we're arguing, we can't get along, and we're having conflict. But then if you look at yourself and look at the situation, it might not be as bad as the situation calls for. Oh well, there's some bitch. These people hate me, and they're always and yeah, okay. Well, hey Joe, how you doing? That maybe you caused it. Maybe part of it is your damn fault. And that's what I had to recognize. Because when I looked over there at that apparition, she was like, nanny, nanny, nana. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I was in the right. No, you weren't. Yeah, I had the right. No, you didn't. Well, why not? It's because that you approached the whole damn thing wrong. And you pissed 7 people off in the cell. And now they hate your guts. And is that really what you wanted? you know, well, no. Then who was right in this? Oh. So you got to be willing to look at your own situation and determine, is it really that freaking horrible? Or am I making the situation horrible on my own? Because of my attitude, because of my actions, because of maybe previous anger from yesterday that something pissed you off and you didn't quite get it out of your system. And now today is kind of leftover anger. And mine was anger from my childhood, for crying out loud. But you have to be able to face it and say, wait a minute, I can see, oh, holy crap, I can see where I was wrong in this because I want to do better. I want to improve. Now, if you don't want to improve, there were just some people who just didn't give a shit how they talk to other people, right? I'm the boss and I'm the this and I can talk to you any way I got damn well want to. Okay, all right. And but then people treated you that way. And I'm like, I don't want to be treated that way. I want to get along. I want to communicate. If somebody's pissed off and you're trying to get them to follow a procedure or whatever, or work a machine or whatever it is, and you piss them off, that is not going to go well. You're leaving negative energy with this people. And I was like, no, man. So then my decision was to go around and I had the joke of the day. So I'd go around to people, hey, want to hear the joke of the day? And sometimes there were some folks that they really like dirty jokes. And I would tell a off color or sometimes a really dirty joke if I heard. And if it was someplace else and all the ladies in the cell or whatever were Christian and all and kind of, straight lace, I'd tell them a Christian joke about something. And they'd all laugh and we'd make up something. And so it got to the point when it was time for me to leave. Both shifts gave me a going away party, which they had to go to great difficulty to give me a going away party on both shifts. So I've talked about this before, but the result of my changing my attitude. And the result of it was absolutely clear cut in the fact that all of these people gave me a going away party, which they didn't do for, a lot of other people. That they might have a cake or something, but no, these folks, they brought food. I mean, they were some of these, ladies were bringing me pots and pies and cakes and stuff that they had baked because I supplied them with eggs. So my point of that is that there was a did I learn anything from it? Oh my God, you betcha. And there are still folks on Facebook that we have stayed in communication, even though I don't use Facebook. I still hear from folks through the grapevine and they say hi still after all this time. And it's been, going on, it's been 25 years at least. So there are still relationships and bonds that I made during that time simply by changing my attitude, tone, etc. Speaking in the positive. And so that is a direct. How do you know this works, Dave slash Hawkeye? It is it because that story I just told you is very true, and there are other folks that can tell you about it too. But anyway, with that said, though, so you have to decide. You have to choose: is this situation suck? Well, what can you do about it? Well, is life in general, does it suck? Or are you just looking at, does it, I mean, you know, are you living in a cardboard box and you don't have a job and you're hungry? Now that sucks. But if you've got a job and you're working things out and you don't have as much money as you like and the car broke down and you're going to figure out, well, that's a different kind of suck, you know? Um, it still hasn't presented itself back in I feel, wait, I missed something. Um, but anyway, hi Diane B. So life can suck, but it could be a point of view. So, there's the person who has everything. There's a person I used to know whose husband made a great deal. He had a very good income, and they were very nice house and a very nice neighborhood, and very nice cars, and they didn't want for anything. But she just wasn't happy. I mean, they had antiques. She had, she could go down and, if she wanted to spend $1,000, it was no big deal. um, on a piece of furniture or on a this or a dish or something. Oh my God. But to the point though, she was just not a happy person. And I'm like, you've got all this stuff, you've got all, you got money, and Why are you dissatisfied? Well, I just don't feel fulfilled. Oh, well, well, okay. So what would fulfill you? What would make you happy? Does your life suck? Well, she felt that her life sucked. And even though she had everything she needed, wanted, her kids were grown. I mean, it was just. Um, so why do you think life sucks? I know this old black man who's a janitor and he makes minimum wage with back then about that time was around $4 or something. And four and a quarter, something like that. And he's mopping floors and he's as happy as he can be. And he's making minimum wages, mopping floors, but he's happy. So it isn't wealth that makes you happy, or it isn't wealth that uh to some people it is wealth, but does wealth actually, ooh, life is a gift. Well, did you have to work for it, or did you inherit it? Well, if you went to school and you worked two jobs and you got your degree and you got a good job and you busted your ass and you earned it, good for you, honestly, right? And then for like myself, I tried my best. I went back to school, but there simply weren't any jobs available for me to get a job in the field that that I went to school for. And I just wasn't, I just refused to move to Atlanta or another big town or anything like that. So I guess that was my fault. I could have moved back to Tampa, but I just like, no, I think I'd rather starve. And I did. But I'm still here. And, but I could have had a better paying job if I'd wanted to move, but I was buying the place here and so I made those decisions. So I ended up working barely above minimum wage, whatever that was, instead of making 15, 20 bucks an hour, you know, which, hey, Mr. Laney, how you doing? Oh, why is it, um, what does that do to you? Oops. I just need to be able to create to earn my own. I need my freedom and health. Understood, Laney. But so in this, yeah, Chloe, I think you're right. So but anyway, with that said though, so do we create our own happiness? Yeah. When I was in jail, which I've talked about numerous times, there were times when we were happy as hell. We were playing cards, we had made a little bit of hooch and got away with it, and we're drunk and we've had, we've had some nutmeg and we're higher than hell. We're locked up. We're in the stock room in the kitchen and the Hillsborough County Jail, second floor, you know, happier than hell and laughing and playing cards and screwing around. We've got something in the oven, honey, and we're munching and eating our way and we're tickled but we're in jail. So even though in a way life sucked, but even in that situation, there were a couple of times where we just absolutely had a ball, even though we were in jail. So, where does happiness lie? Well, in this is life a gift? Absolutely. You know, well, I went through a stage like I didn't ask to be here. I think all teenagers, at least those belligerent ones, I didn't ask to be born. Well, that's true. But for those of us who learned some higher, more spiritual things, we maybe, and that was the conversation with that me and my friend had today. She was like, me and my husband, I don't know. It's she goes, my friend told me that the reason we're together still after all these years is that, we're soulmates and we're both reincarnated because this time we got to work it out. Where last time, anyway, but to that point, so there's soul contracts. Edgar Casey and other folks have talked about soul contracts so that you have the option before the soul enters the baby, the body, the thing, to accept or receive that soul's contract in life. And so there are many different things, and I'm sure that in your own lives too, that you could have done this or you could have done that, or you could have blah blah. So, I tried going to school. I took a back in the day it was a correspondence school on forestry. And because I was going to become a forester and move and live in the national forest, and I was going to work and do, and I tried, but then I got busted. And with a felony, I am absolutely not available to. I gotta say, Brian, that that's true. But I did that with certain projects over the years, and I almost freaking starved to death. I was doing what I liked and wanted, and I was very good at it too. Not bragging, just was. But there are folks out there that no money came to me. And it was like 10 years later that a little money came from it. But it was nowhere near anything to support me. Sometimes those things we love, especially if we're going to consider them as a business, that we're going to derive income from this, it may just be a hobby. And the world may not be ready for it. Um, I've tried a bunch of shit over the years, and somebody said, "Well, that was a good idea, but it failed." Yeah, because the neighborhood, I could have moved someplace else and maybe it would work. I might have been able to go back to Tampa, and or go move to a larger town. But as far as my idea here, it sucked. Okay, so your idea may be good, but it may not be where you're at or the location, or there are other factors in that if you work on it, it will come kind of thing. Yeah, well, when you got to pay bills, you got to have that happiness. If you're hungry and you don't have a job or money or whatever, and then you're going to be a sad mofo because you didn't make enough money to buy something to eat. So, um, but anyway, so sometimes, like right now, I'm retired. All right, so my income I don't have to worry about in that if they cut it off, I'd be screwed. But I know friends of mine who are making almost three times as much as I am retired, and they can't live within their means. And I make, about $1,200 a month. Finally, after all these years, I got like $100 raise this year. Don't know why, but I did. But everything else has gone up. I mean, I'm spending more than $100 a month on dog food for Duggar and for all the cats in the yard. And I've taken that on myself, but it didn't used to cost $75 for dog food. I mean, total. I mean, it's $30 a bag for a thing, and Dungarees can and dried and other, so I'm spending $125 a month, which was my raise just to feed the animals. Now I could shoot them all or give them away or whatever and save that money for myself, but I choose not to. But at the same time, oh my God, that's what it costs. Too many correlate money with happy. Oh, right. Able to attract anything we desire. I understand, Brian, and I'm with you on that. But sometimes, you have to fudge. I've had great ideas, but I was in the wrong place for those ideas. That's all. You know, if I was in a bigger town, I'd have made a killing, but I live out here in the country and my ideas did not work down here, you know, but that's okay. That's okay. It's a lesson learned. And things changed. For example, I got out there in the yard. I got a trailer, a joint trailer with awnings, and in it there is a bunch of camping gear, but in it are my very large, huge popcorn popper, like you see at the when you go into the movie theater, if you ever do that again, and a cotton candy machine. And we were going to take the trailer, and we did. We tried it going out to places selling cotton candy and popcorn. And we sold drinks along. We had a bunch of coolers that went under the counters and so forth. But anyway, but the business dropped. Carney's went out of business. I mean, the carnival I grew up on is there's no sign of it anymore. The things that we used to be able to do, they're just not available anymore. So I figured I was going to retire and make a little extra money, selling cotton candy and popcorn, very simple, not expensive as far, the cotton candy machine was about $700. The popcorn machine was right at 650. So between these two machines, I've got over $1,000 invested in it, right? How much does popcorn cost? Not much. How much does sugar cost? Not much. So, and the bags and the boxes and stuff. I mean, so we were in business and we're doing well until the business changed. All the little carnivals went out, all the little things. Then they said that, well, but it's just cotton candy and popcorn. No, now you have to, every town or every place that you go, you have to be inspected by the health department because you might be selling something that'll make somebody sick. So it's like our ideas were great, but the environment changed. I realized that I spent years pushing money away, of lacking money. Understood, Brian. So the idea was a great one. We had great equipment. We had literally built this trailer ourselves. And it's still sitting out there. It's not rusted in any places that I've noticed, by the way, either. But it's been sitting out there for over 20 years, you know, and almost 20 years. It was about 2004, I think, 5 that we built it. But anyway, but to the point though, you know, um, we got the trailer built. We got those things that we needed for the business, but the business model changed. And what do you do with something like that? So, I refuse to sell that, that popcorn machine, or the cotton candy machine. Actually, one of these days I'm going to get a chance to use it. But everything we tried to use with the popcorn and cotton candy, it just didn't work out. So, and I'm not saying I'm not trying to be a bummer about this, but sometimes you have a really good idea, but it depends on where you're at with that idea. So, again, it's circumstances, right? So, but anyway, just saying. I could have moved to another place. I could have moved back down to Florida and where there was a better opportunity and places where I could go and set up. But I chose to stay in Georgia. And things around here, the economy dropped down. It was not so, I could have made other choices and went kind of sort of on the road with the popcorn candy, cotton candy, but I that would have meant I left home and I didn't have a place to stay and I didn't have the finances to make that kind of change and I didn't have the bankroll and anyway. So, but do I look at life at that particular time? I mean, we spent a bunch of money to get that trailer and everything ready. And then to not be able to use it like we had planned, like we knew we could make money. We knew we could make money and survive. We didn't need a lot. And we could both do what we really like to do is to be on the carnival kind of thing. If Wayne has a beach on the other side, do you have a carnival? If Wayne has a beach, I'm Saturnian. I missed that one. I don't know. Money used to be green. It's kind of funky nowadays. So I'm not trying to put down people's ideas or something. It's that the idea was a good one. It was our location that sucked. So in this location. So, we had it. We had certain things available to us, but because we were both out of work at the time, trying to make this work, and we'd spent every penny we had on getting the trailer up and stock and so forth. We didn't have enough money to bankroll us to go to a couple of places to get a good start. So we just ran out of funds to bankroll us. But, one could say, well, that was poor planning. Maybe. We took a long shot. We did our best. We worked our ass off to get the trailer done and to get everything set up, which we did. So we accomplished a lot. But by the time it only took us about a month to build the trailer and get everything. But when we made the decision, but the times had changed so much during that time. So where we were going, well, you got to have a permit. Well, where do you get the permit? Well, you should have had it 2 days ago. And how much is the permit? Well, the permit's $150. What? Yeah. If you want to set up here, it's $150 just to set up. Yeah. Before we make a dime, you want $150? Yep. Do you know how many bags of cotton candy and and popcorn that is? Before you ever make a profit, before you pay for your gas, you got to have $150. And it rained the whole weekend. And so we were out $150 plus the trip and all the expenses. And oh my God, so couldn't go to the next place because we spent $150 on a no show just in order to set up. So, but anyway, good ideas sometimes just don't work out. It's not, we looked around and said, look, it's not our fault. Literally, we had put it out there, we had our stuff. So sometimes I think it takes a little bit of luck or, a prayer to the creator to like, give us, shoot a little business our way or, make it a little easier for us to get out there and do this thing and whatever. I tried a lot of different angles, but by golly, it just the times have changed with that kind of thing. It used to be there was a little carnival going on here and there, and but anyway. So enough of that. But so in the general span of does life suck? I would absolutely agree that sometimes it does. Sometimes life sucks. You know, is life a gift? Over these last 70 years, I gotta say that, yeah, in a lot of ways, it was a gift. And it was my fault for not looking at it that way. So there are a lot of people who are like, God damn, I didn't plan on being here. I didn't ask to be born. I didn't choose this. Damn. See us at Turnian. Yes, it's 107 here. It only means miserable if you believe that you're miserable. I agree with you. We get to choose whether we are miserable or joyful. Life doesn't happen to us externally. We happen to life. I gotta not be contrary to what you say, Brian. But you set up the carnival. I'm just, over here in Pelham back in the day. You set up, Pelham was always a good spot. You always made good money. You could count on people being there. There were people that because we'd been there year after year after year, that came out and helped us. You could depend that you was going to make a pretty good sum of money if when we played Pelham. So we get to Pelham, we set up on Sunday afternoon. We're ready to open on Monday, and it rains the whole week. Now, history has shown that Pelham is one of the top spots back in the day with the Carney. It rains the whole week, and we literally get washed out. So we're depending because of previous you get there this time, and because of the rain and the weather and the storms. So sometimes there are external things, not to be a cog in the thing, but there were times when we were, down in Cairo, which was always a good spot. Rain for 3 or 4 days, or rain over the weekend, and wash out what should have been $100 or $200 night for me, my pay, and that would be based on a percentage. I could make $100 in a night in Cairo, and if I had 3 good nights, that's $300. Back then, that was a crap load of money. And so, but then it rains the whole time, and you end up with $50 in your pocket for the week. So, is it anybody's fault? So I agree that we can do these things, but I also agree that there are external things that sometimes just get in the mofo way. You know, I just, now what do? You just got to write it out. So is life a gift in that? You say, well, wait a minute now. We worked all summer long, expecting to ride into Pelham and have a really good week, and then it rains the whole week. And so, what should have been a $300 or $400 week in my pocket has turned out to be a $50 week. Now, how do I feed myself? What do I, now again, it probably sounds like I'm trying to be a downer. I'm trying to be a realist. Because in these things that we worked and we did, and everything we did everything right, but creator or the universe deemed otherwise. But when you're working on the carnival, you're so I'm sorry about that, spitting up gunk. Oh, that must have looked lovely running down my chin. But see, now, that's one of the things, um, that certain things just, you have to do. If you're on a carney and you're outside, and then you're subject to the environment, you kind of have to play that. But now, if you've got a different kind of job and you're inside and things and stuff, so your parameters are different. So I understand that. And I'm not trying to be a negative Nelly, but I'm trying to show you that sometimes you got everything working for you, and then a tornado comes through, or a hurricane, or literally a storm comes through, and you ain't got a damn thing that, it was not on your list of shit that was supposed to happen, but it happens anyway. And so does that mean that life is, sucks? That we, down here in South Georgia and Florida, when we had, that big Hurricane Michael come through, ain't none of us, wanted that puppy to come through here, but we had to deal with it. And we all got through it and etc. But at the time, we felt like we were cursed. And then after it was all over and kind of shook out, we all were very grateful that life is a gift because we survived those 150-mile-an-hour winds, and watching trees turn sideways, and Kodak superpower. I just what or hey Cherry, money can only go so far, and I'm amazed how much everything goes up, but the money doesn't. Yep. I'm also saying that hot mayo has the potential to give you food poisoning. Oh, absolutely, Brian. Absolutely. Don't let it be at room temperature. Oh, absolutely. I would agree with that. It'll give you ptomaine. You'll be sicker and you'll have the too. I agree with that one, Brian. 110%. Lord have mercy. Because I used to love mayonnaise on my bologna sandwiches. And living in Tampa, the bologna sandwiches would get warm. And I'd eat two or three of them for lunch, and by the afternoon, my stomach would be upset, and it's because of mayo. And I didn't learn that for years because I was a dumb kid in high school, right? But anyway, and we didn't have any place cool to put our lunches or whatever. But so in the few hours from the time they were made to lunchtime, that stuff would go rancid sometimes. But anyway, so I think life is a gift. Even though I've had enough ups and downs, as many of you have heard me talk about stuff, being in jail, doing this, blah, 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 So I've had a lot more ups and downs, maybe, not bragging. No, I'm not. But, a lot more ups and downs than the normal person, you know. And in a lot of ways, in talking with my friend earlier today, it was like, maybe that was supposed to be, you know, even though like I had a job working at an electrical company, uh, uh, selling electrical parts and pieces and wire and stuff. Anyway, walked in one Monday morning and they was like, "Here's your pink card. What did I do wrong? Nothing. Well, why am I letting you go? Well, because we have to downsize a little bit and you're the low man on the totem pole. And besides, the guy tells me, he said, "You're a survivor, Dave." Now I'm barely making it, right? I mean, we are just, there aren't basic food, basic rent. That's it. And this guy says, "Well, I'm sure that you can make it." Now he's making three times as much as me as the manager, right? So, but he's telling me where I'm barely scraping by feeding my children's. We're just barely, everything is just barely. And he goes, "Well, do I get a severance pay? No. Do I get unemployment? No. Why? Well, because you'll find another job, which took me 3 weeks. So 3 weeks, no food, no nothing. And I mean, wait a minute. None of it was my fault. I was on time every day. I worked my butt off. I did what I was told, and I stayed late if it was necessary, sometimes off the clock. And hey, Mary, how are you? So sometimes circumstances change, and it changes you from being, oh, life is a gift to life sucks, you know? Like I said, when I was 18 years old, I got my check from from not so from my income tax check. I bought a truck, Later on that afternoon, I pick up my friends. We're turning left to go in the bank, and a car comes up from behind us doing about 45 and hits us straight through. He was drunkard and snot. He went through the windshield and put us all in the hospital. And so I went from absolutely deliriously happy at 2 o'clock that afternoon, roughly. It was just after lunch, to in the hospital at 6 o'clock that evening with my truck that I had just bought looking like an accordion and scrunched up like that. And it took me 2 years through litigation and whatever to even get any kind of money back from it. So I lost out. Talk about depressed. I had head concussions, which I still have issues after all these years, and suicidal tendencies. Here I was on top of the world, and now I don't have anything. I lost my job over it, because I was underage. Bessie wouldn't, they wouldn't admit me to the hospital. I was underage, so no one would sign for me. I laid out in the hall in the emergency room for 9 hours, and friends of mine went out to Zephyr Hills and picked up my granny, who I talk about lovingly. And she came in and signed me into the hospital where my parents wouldn't. Okay. I mean, and so talk about being depressed for myself. So being up here at noon today and being down here at 6 p.m. that same day. So life is a wonderful gift and then it sucks. I mean, so the folks on the Titanic. So I don't want to be, I'm not trying to be negative because there are times I was driving, we were on a trip somewhere and we were really low on cash. I mean, we were really low on cash, but we had a budget and we had food in the cooler and we were good to go. Pulled into this place up in North Georgia somewhere, and there blowing across the parking lot was a $20 bill. And at the time, that, gas was like less than $1. So, 20 bucks went a long way, and it was like, oh my God, God just threw a $20 bill out. There wasn't anybody in the parking lot, but here's this $20 bill, just a piece of trash just blowing across the parking lot of this grocery store. And it was like, amen, hallelujah. So, when things are tight, there was a time when me and my buddy, we were coming back from doing puppet shows in Tennessee, and it had a little bit of weed. What time is it? Oh, it's almost time. We had a little bit of weed for the trip up there, and we had a little bit of weed for just after we got done. But then that was the end of our little bit of weed, right? And I got a little woody, and we were smoking it in the pipe and being very conservative. And so we take this road. Every time I left Tennessee, I always tried to find another little curvy road, to come back home on, right? So we find this curvy road out of Tennessee and going into North Georgia and windy, curvy. Oh my goodness. Beautiful highway up this mountain. Had never been there before. We get to this overlook, right? And we're standing there and cars are going by and everything. And we're looking down. And my buddy pokes me in the elbow there and he says, "Do you see what I see?" And I went, "Oh my God." Look down. Oh my God. Look down at the overhang. People had stopped to smoke a joint, and somebody had drive up, possibly, I'm assuming, and threw the roaches down. So he climbed down um, underneath, and there were some folks that drove up, and I was like, "Hi, how you doing?" And he was down there picking up roaches. So he ended up with a nice little set of roaches that we were able to poke and poking that little bowl of ours. And we got really stoned on that drive home from Tennessee that trip. From out of nowhere came this gift. So there are times when you just like, nah, we were out. A friend of mine and I were camping in the Chattahoochee National Forest, and it was late at night, and it was similar situation. We had smoked our last joint that afternoon, and it was like, man, we set up camp. Wouldn't it be nice to, have us something to smoke, for the evening and whatever, and and so we're walking along, and there on the ground is three quarters of a joint. And I mean, looked like a cigarette kind of joint. I mean, a heavy duty one, right? Not a blunt, a joint. Oh my God, what are we gonna? Oh, we looked around. Anybody hiding in the bushes? What is this thing? Oh my God, it's just laying on this forest road for crying out loud. We were camped just above it. We had literally almost drove over the thing, getting to where we had set up the camp. We looked down, looked around, then a little further down, there was another roach that was about like a half a joint. So here we were in the middle of the national forest, mind you, in a not very well known campground, um, in the wilderness. And again, look down, whoop, there you go. God Spirit dropped us something to put in our little bowl and smoke. Oh my goodness. So there are times when, Creator has smiled in really odd ways. And then there are times when, somebody steals your weed and you're left with nothing. There are those times too that have happened to me. So in all, I would say, yeah, I've had some folks steal my weed, and that life sucks, you know. But then there are those times when we really, really wanted one, and there really didn't seem to be any way something like that would happen. And it just almost literally lands in your lap, and you go, you know, just we manifest sadness and misery as well as illness and depression. I agree with that. Why not the extreme opposite of that? Yep, I agree with you, Brian. So there are some folks, and I talked about this maybe last time or with somebody. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, I was like, there are folks who, I knew. Talked with my aunt on her birthday, and she was like, David, when you was a little kid, she goes, I remember you. We'd ask you what you were going to be when you grew up. And she goes, you always said that you were going to be a hermit and live on a river in the woods. And she goes, you've been doing it for the last 40 years. She goes, you're doing exactly what you said you was going to do when you was a little child before you ever knew what the hell a hermit was. We always wondered, you know, who t- who told him what who told a 4-year old what a hermit is. But anyway, so I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in whatever that might be. So sometimes the soul contracts that we have, as much as I try to change things in my life, like, well, I became an engineer, but there weren't any jobs around here. All the industry moved out. Instead, they brought in chicken killing plants. Used to work in tobacco. They don't, there are very few farmers who grow tobacco around here anymore. And it used to be a huge market, millions of dollars down here in South Georgia. You can't see, there are remnants of places. So, sometimes the times change, and sometimes those things which, to manifest a job. I had a good job and I worked for this company, and I'm thinking of this friend of mine, and he was going to retire, and the whole company just, they walked in one day and said, y'all are fired, and closed the doors. Now, there went his retirement, there went everything. Now, what does this man do? And it's sort of like me, too. But, Riverside Manufacturing, there's actually a part of just outside of Moultrie city limits, is the small town, quote, of Riverside. And a family used to own the business, and they made Riverside made work clothing. So if you worked in a manufacturing place and you rented uniforms, they made the uniforms at Riverside, and they had several plants. Well, the family decided it just didn't want to fool with it anymore. They pulled the plug, told everybody to go home. Hundreds of people now that had been working there for years, seamstress, machinists, sewing machine mechanics. They walked in one day and nobody had a job. There was no warning. Who's insulted, Brian? So there are times when, we have manifested things, but then there are some times, that crappy dinosaur just comes by and just craps on us. And there ain't nothing we can do. It's a Godzilla kind of moment. So, but we can take that and say, well, all right. So we manifest the next thing. But I know of many folks, especially down here in South Georgia, who we have worked hard to manifest these things, but then other things happen. And what we had worked for, is all of a sudden it just ain't there no more. And that sucks. Okay. So, but you had good jobs, you manifested, you worked with good people, and all that is true. But then external stuff will sometimes screw with all of it. Okay. So, I'm not trying to say you should quit doing what you do it. No. But like me and my brother, when we chose to spend all that money and time and effort into trying to have our own business because we were old carnies, that we could, eke a living out of being old carnies. Well, but the times had changed and old carnies are literally a thing of the past. So, but we were caught up in the moment. Like when I had my contractor's license, I had all the tools and equipment that I needed. I did work on several homes and um, engineered a new roof over a double wide, um, and did this and that. I rebuilt porches and things and stuff for people. And I had insurance. I had contractor's license. I was doing it right. And then the market fell. Again, not my fault. And then the Mexicans moved in. So you could hire 3 Mexicans for the price of me. And I was working for $10 an hour. Big money back then. $10 an hour. Ooh, I was making a killing in 1986, 87. But when the housing market and things dropped around here, there were so many contractors, and then the Mexicans showed up, and 3 of them had worked for the price of one, you know, because they were making $3 an hour, and they were tickled because it was paid under the table, and $3 an hour. They were making $30, 30 pesos a day or a week, and 30 pesos is like $3 for a week. They worked, and they were there making $3 an hour. So they didn't care. But the rest of us who had bills to pay and insurance and contractors' fees and all that kind of stuff, we had to have a set amount of money in order to break even. A lot of folks lost out during that period too. So, but in the long run, during all of the ups and downs and the businesses I've tried, it was a good idea. I did good work. And then the market fell. Not my fault. Blah, blah, blah. Like my friend who had $1.5 million worth of apartments and houses in Atlanta and down here. Her husband died. She lost her shirt. The market dropped, and she ended up homeless, living under a bridge. And she may have committed suicide by now. But to the point though, so sometimes life just throws you a whammo, you know? And it ain't your fault. Yeah, Brian. I read one of the cards. I think it was Hummingbird tonight on Milky Way show, and it's about joy, and that the opposite of sadness is joy. And so it's like um, through all of my ups and downs and roller coaster life, and other people's too, because good friends of mine, we worked at the same place. We all lost our job at the same time. It wasn't like it was just one of us. There were at times there were many of us who lost out with the deal. And so, what do you do in that situation? Well, we stuck together as friends and we gave each other support. If somebody heard of a job or something, we kind of had a network going. So, in that, all right, light them up again. It's after 20, so, but with this though, is life a gift? Well, there were some of us who felt that we just was son of a bitch. I'm checking out of this crap. Had a good job, lost the house, lost my car, lost the this, you know, and I was working well and had 3 more years, I would have had this and the house. Oh my, now, things change. So now what do? You punt, right? You adapt to whatever the situation is. And sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it is tough, and you will look at life and go, I thought life was a gift. I had a good job. I'm speaking of some folks that were engineers, and they had $150,000 home they were paying a mortgage on and had just bought a new car. And they walk into a pink paper and go, now what do I do? I just, I got my home invested in, and now what am I going to do? Now what? You know, It was easier for me to fall because I didn't have so far to go. But there were friends of mine who were making close to $100,000 a year. And when that income quit, they were hurting. I was making $35,000 a year. I didn't have near as far to fall. And I'd already growed up poor. So it was a gift to me, to make, $35,000 a year. I was a rich mofo. And these guys, 35 grand a year wouldn't pay for their mortgage because they'd bought these big houses. They depended on their jobs and things changed. So we can manifest a lot of things in our lives. And I am not disagreeing with Brian in this. I'm just saying but life will throw you curves when you least expect it. I know friends of mine who, a lawyer, I've talked about my lawyer friend, and, he's still a lawyer and he's a year younger than me. But he went to lawyer school and he was persistent. He stuck with it. He became prosecuting attorney. He had formed a little bluegrass band. He, so his life stayed on that track. Me, as much as I machinist, a mechanic, an engineer, I bounced all over the frickin' place. And it wasn't because I wanted to. It just ended up that way. Friend of mine who's a doctor went to school. Him and his wife, she became a nurse, he became a doctor, and and he's still a doctor. You know, he pursued that. Now, is life? Does he feel that life was a gift to him, or does he feel like it was a curse? Now, for me, I think life was a gift to me. I just think I was cursed along the way. I've had some crappy bad luck, and I've known other people, and no matter how hard they've tried, it just didn't work out for them. Now, what do you say to that? You know, I mean, honestly, what do you say to that? I didn't, I've worked for 5 companies that no longer exist in any way, shape, or form. They are just literally gone. There's no history. I mean, if you knew that they, were around 25 or 30 years ago, you might find their name in a phone book, you know, uh, blah, blah, manufacturing. Does it exist now? Is the building still there? No. Does anybody even know that there used to be, you know, 20 people that worked there and we machined and stamped out all kinds of stuff? Nope. It's just not in existence anymore. Anybody's fault? Not in particular. It's just ain't there. One thing I can tell you is that we are all one with the universe. Whoa, that was a good one. That went way down there. We are all at one with the universe. Yeah, I'm honestly not trying to be negative about manifesting things. I'm really not. Because I've been able to manifest these good jobs, but other stuff came along and well, it just went out the window. It's nobody's fault, it's their fault, whoever they are. But as far as you and me and what I manifested and what we did and worked together, we accomplished that, you see. So we got our wish, we got our gift, we just couldn't keep it. That's how that worked out. Susie Q's in the house. Hey girl, what you doing? Adapt and overcome. Yeah, I mean, and there's y'all know most of you anyway that I've had, I spent years being depressed, years going to therapy, years wanting to kill myself, and I can't, And part of it was because I've had such a roller coaster life. Even though I tried my best, much love to you, Saturnian. Get some sleep, rest well. Good to see you, and cheers. But so I think some of these folks had some luck on their side. I mean, over 700 people lost their jobs when I worked at Prestolite. None of us expected that. Okay. And the repercussions of what happened after they closed those plants. The same thing with Riverside. All those people who made clothing and for years, and all the companies that used to rent those uniforms that Riverside made, they now didn't have a supplier. They just shut it down across the board, and they had plants all over the place, not just the one here in Moultrie. But there are hundreds of people work there that work 3 shifts. I mean, it was a busy place. And now the buildings are still there, and all those folks now then didn't have a job. And some of them folks were like going to retire, and their pensions were gone, and this was gone. When they pulled out, they just they screwed everybody when the family pulled out. They said, we just don't want to run the place no more, and just instead of selling it they just dropped it, declared bankruptcy, and walked away. So there are these huge buildings, in Riverside, the community where Riverside Manufacturing and Riverside Uniform Rentals and all that. None of it exists anymore. And one day it was there, and literally the next day it wasn't. So, but we can still manifest our future. We can still manifest happiness, regardless of how things kind of work out. We weather the storm, you know Well, when Michael came through and the storm was so bad, And I just thought, oh my God, we're all gonna fucking die. I'd never seen pine trees turn sideways before, and then spring back up. I'd never heard wind howl in such a ominous, oh my God, scary. And I've been through hurricanes before, but when Hurricane Michael came through, I I didn't have Duggar at the time, but I was hanging on for dear life, you know, as far as, oh my God. And then when the tornado passed over the house, it was another, oh my God. Grateful and blessed the next day when everything was okay. And so, um, but thought you were cursed while the storm was going on. And then when the storm passes and your house is okay and you got all your body parts and you go, "Oh Jesus, what a gift it is that I'm still here and how blessed I am." So you go from worried to the hurricane and 130, 40-mile-an-hour winds. It was blasting through here. And then when it's over, you go, "Thank you, Jesus." And I mean it. Thank you, Jesus, the creator, the spirits. I got what I got. My neighbors lost a barn when it went through, passed over my house, just rattled a few things. Um, Killed a bunch of trees in the woods in the backyard between me and my other neighbor over here. But lucky, and do we feel that were gifted? You betcha. Is life a gift? It was, has been. After my heart attack, what a gift. After going to the doctor again today and getting my checkup, everything's coming back fine. So I've got 30% and a 40% drop in two separate parts of my heart. So if I'm careful and I do well, I got a good 10 years because I don't have cancer. I don't have that. So I'm grateful. That's a gift to me. I got my uncle just died last week and he's 87 years old. So he's the oldest Null that I know as far as. And thank you, Mary. Um, Brian, it ain't a belief. It's just what's happened to me and other people that I know. It's what life is. But do I feel that because of my roller coaster ride, where my friend the doctor, I consider he's had it easy. He went to school, he stuck with it, he became a doctor, got his license. He's an excellent surgeon. He saved many people's lives. Can't ask for nothing better than that. And he has a nice house and makes a good living, and he's got wonderful children. And he and I did theater together, and we've been in musicals together, and what a wonderful guy. And I miss him, you know. And I've watched this man literally give $100 bill to a homeless person, indirectly, but gave it to him. But there was a homeless guy that used to hang out in the parking lot at the theater a lot. And he was standing out there smoking a big cigar. And I'm like, "Dude, what are you doing out here?" And he goes, I'm watching, Herman over there. He was a local black man, homeless guy and he would pick up cans from behind the bar and do things, and he'd, "Hey, I work for some food. Y'all got any food or anything?" Anyway, so he always tried to do something, right? He wasn't like a bum, but he was homeless and didn't have much. Um, and so I'm watching him. I said, "So what are you doing?" He goes, "Quiet." He said, "I'm watching him." And he goes, "Well, what are you watching?" He said, "Well, I put $100 bill out there on the parking lot." And I went, "You did what?" And at the time, I could have used that $100, man. I didn't say nothing, but he goes, I said, why didn't you just give it to him? And he goes, listen, man, I grew up in the Bronx. He said, you want to give somebody something, you let them find it. If you go give it to them, and especially like $100, he said, they'll be coming up to you all the time wanting to bum $100 from you because they know you got it. He said, but I put it out there in the parking lot because he always kind of walks this way. And he said, I put it in, and it wasn't, the wind wasn't. I said, what about the wind? And he goes, well, I put a rock on it. I said, you put $100 bill in the freaking parking lot with a rock on it, hoping this guy would find it. He went, yeah, that's why I'm sitting here watching. I want to see if he gets it. If not, I'm going to go pick it up. And I was like, and sure enough, a couple of minutes later, he stumbled along and looks down and he goes, oh no, $100 bill. And he reaches down and pulls it up. And Eric looks at me and he smiles and takes a hit off his cigar. And he goes, that's how you give somebody money. And I was like, astonished. And he has done this many times. So, he's my doctor friend, a Jewish fellow, married a Catholic girl. But in that, so, that's his way to give back to people. And he has helped people directly too. But I mean, you know, it, he knew this guy because we used to hang around behind the theater and smoke our cigars or whatever, and because we didn't smoke inside. And so, we would see him on a daily basis or in the evenings or when we were doing a show or something, so he was kind of sort of part of the community anyway, not ours, but Thomasville anyway. But to that point, though, that, he was lucky enough that he was a doctor. He was lucky enough that he stayed with it. He was lucky enough that he's a good surgeon, too, that's good. And so he helps people by curing them and, replacing a kidney or whatever. I mean, but also he's leaving $100 bills in the parking lot for homeless people to pick up, you know. What do you say? Um, but thank you. There are decent people in this world who don't want any kind of recognition. He didn't want anybody to know what he was doing. And, because we were good friends for many years at that time, I was like, well, what the hell are you doing? Well, watch, you know. And then he told me. He didn't tell anybody else. He was like, nothing. I'm just out here smoking my cigar. Well, Eric, what you doing? Nothing. I'm just puffing. But he's watching this guy the whole time. Me, because we've been, I guess, better, deeper friends or something anyway. He shares with me. That's why I'm watching that guy. That I'm out here smoking my stogie, but I'm also watching this guy because I put $100 bill out there with a rock on it. You know. So so the guy is homeless. He's picked up a few bottles. He's had some lunch. There's somebody always bought him a hot dog or a cheese dog or chili dog from the back of the pool hall. You know, pool hall hot dogs. There are rich people who will stop their caddies in the middle of the road to go buy a pool hall chili dog. I mean, and they ain't nothing special, but they're pool hall chili dog. And so, just one of the things down here in Thomasville. But so, if nothing else, somebody would buy him a chili dog, and or something. So, and there were a lot of times where we'd have leftover food, after a show or something, and we would put out food along the wall out there and for him to eat. But so there were some days when life sucked for him because there wasn't a show, there wasn't any food on the wall, and he really had, it was, life was already tough. um but then there were the days when he felt very blessed because Eric had left $100 bill in the parking lot. Dory had left food on the back wall. there where he would walk around the parking lot and pick up bottles and cans and stuff and do odd chores for people, in the downtown area. But instead of walking the front streets, he walked behind and he would talk to people. Hey, mister, you got, you need some sweeping up, you need, hey, mister, you got to, so he was trying to provide for himself in what little bit he could. And we all took pity upon him as a community as he wandered around back there, to leave food out and to, like Eric would leave money in the parking lot. And I still can't believe he used to do that, but and he may still do. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him in a while. But so we can take care of each other if we decide to. And everybody that was part of the downtown community at that time who knew of this black gentleman that wandered around, we knew he was harmless. We knew he never tried to harm anybody or whatever, but he'd come up to you and ask if he had change. Not all the time, but when he was really down and nobody left him any food, he would approach you. And but those of us who knew him, we tried our best to help in what way we could. And did life suck? Not on the days that he got food, not on the days when he'd find $100 bill. Life was joyous and he was grateful. So times change within a day, and what happens to a person. And the man was a little, by the way, a little mentally defunct, okay? And he could do small chores and things and stuff and, carry boxes in for people that own stores downtown. Somebody'd come in with a truckload and they'd hire him for 20 minutes to unload some boxes. And, so there were those odd jobs kind of thing there. So, but folks knew that he would try to work. Nobody would give him, solid work because he didn't quite have that together. But everybody, so they tried to bestow upon him, even with his mental disabilities, which were pretty severe, I'm saying, um, to allow him to be useful. You know what I mean? To be something. When he found that $100 bill the next day, somehow, somewhere, he got a shower and clean clothes, you know, and we could tell, it was like, woo, what a change. And he wasn't hungry and he wasn't bumming, for food or anything. And Misty, you got any spare change? He never asked for $1. It was always spare change. And I've always said extra change and stuff, And so I'd say here, whatever it is, I found a bag of spare change under my seat in the truck today. I was like, where did this come from? And I just, I'd have spare change and throw it in this plastic bag. And if I ever needed something, it always had spare change under the seat. So I forgot that bag was there. Don't make me better than anyone or worse. It's just a different way of seeing the world. Yep. Yep. I see it in a lot of ways with you too, Brian. But the world hasn't quite seen it the way that, a friend of I say a friend of mine. We were friends at the time, but I worked steel back in Tampa, and we'd go off on jobs up here to South Georgia, North Florida, and put up steel buildings. The highest building I worked on was 90 feet to the eave, and it was straight down 90 feet. There wasn't nothing in between. And so, but anyway, so I was used to working heights and crawling up on steel and all around and putting them together and doing roofing work and from the concrete up, we would build these buildings, Butler buildings and that kind of thing. But anyway, so but he looked at me one day and we went to this job up in North Florida, and the guy was supposed to have, I don't know, poured a slab or something. He was supposed to have done certain things by the time we got there. We were supposed to get there and start we were supposed to start building, right? We weren't supposed to be doing any kind of foundation work or anything like that. Good night, Susie Q. Congress is the exception to stupidity, not bring me any joy. Yeah, Congress, oh my God. Especially the way it is now. But so he looked at me and he goes, life would be great if it weren't for other people. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, we're all here. We're all ready to go to work and life is great. But he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And now we got to sit here and I got to pay you to sit here because, you know, we're up here and we're ready to go. And he goes, life would be great. Life is great, except for other people. In other words, changing things or, the weather is bad and you're outside or whatever it is, is life is great. And then other people get involved, in whatever way they get in your way. They don't have to do what they're supposed to do or, you know, um, and so it's like that's true too. So you can hold up your end of the bargain and your life in whatever way that it is. Is life good? Yeah, absolutely. You're just trucking along and then somebody literally like what happened when the day I bought my first pickup truck, the same day I bought it, somebody ran in behind me and totaled the truck and put three of us in the hospital, actually four of us, me, Len, Lucy, and the guy that was driving the vehicle that hit us from behind. So, in an instant, it changes, right? So, and from that, we did our best to manifest, and adapt to what the situation was. But I had severe head trauma. I had blackouts. I tried to hang myself and commit suicide. They committed me, wanted to, put me in a rubber room with, in a straitjacket, and protect myself and so forth. Just, what an ordeal, Part of it I created, but circumstances created a lot of it that just seemed to be out of control. So we were talking about destiny today, my friend and I, and whether we were destined to have an accident or destined to meet this person or destined to have a good job and live a good life, that we were destined to have issues along that, as many times as I've tried to have a soulmate, that just ain't happened for me. And as a Libra, I'm just, that ain't where it was supposed to work out. I'm supposed to be sitting on the porch with my old lady and we're watching the sun go down. We're smoking a doobie or having I don't drink anymore, but we can be having a coffee, watching the sun go down, watching the birds and the bees. And I'm supposed to be, and it's me and Duggar. Now, I love Duggar, don't get me wrong, but he ain't a female companionship. So, and as hard as I tried to manifest that for myself, I just kept going down the wrong and choosing the wrong person and just trying to settle because I thought I would. And, of course, then there's the other person who is lying to you be, for whatever reason. And so you think you got it covered, you think you got a soulmate, and next thing you know, now my friend that I'm talking to was at this moment has been married 17 years. And between my three wives and other consorts, I I don't total 17 years of marriage. And she'd been 17 years marriage to the same person. Now I wish that was me, but it didn't work out that way. Now, is that the cosmic contract that we sign? Is that our soul contract ahead of time that, she and her hubby have been together this long, and that whatever cosmic thing brought them together, they have manifested 17 years together. It ain't, she told me, she goes, it ain't all been roses. She goes, there's been times when we were just barely making it, but we hung tight, and we worked even harder, and we saved, and we ate, you know, um, beans and weenies, and we've made it. And here we are all this time later, and my daughter, she's 14 years old and smart and does, and we are blessed with all these things. But she goes, there was a time when I felt like I was cursed because we just kept running into bad luck. So, but they were persistent in it. So, in the end of 17 years, it's not ended for them, but I mean, up to this point, they have been able to manifest their togetherness despite whatever adversaries have come before them. I'm, envious because I tried several times to achieve the same thing with someone, and it just didn't work out. Now, does that mean that I'm cursed? Again, one could say, well, son, bitch, Dave, I have looked in the mirror and go, how can I get cursed with these crazy bitches that literally, my last wife, not girlfriend but last wife, literally was poisoning me, you know, and I was sick all the time. And a buddy of mine that I was sort of thinking about earlier that was making good money, and then he got his pink slip, lost his house and his this, and oh my God. Um, and he was a good engineer and a hard worker. But but anyway, here we are when situations change. What are you going to do? Now, for me, and talking with my friend earlier, I was like, I think that I knew I had to do this because we threw in the word karma a couple of times. That maybe we're working out karma, we're learning lessons. It's not necessarily we're working it out, although she said me and my hubby were working it out this time. But we feel like we've known each other from a long time, right? But it didn't last for some reason. And this time we've met each other, and I've got a child, and this happened. And she said it was kind of deja vu as some of this happened to me. So was it that that was I meant to marry him? Were we meant to have these problems that we had to work through because we're working out some kind of karma that happened in a previous life? She goes, I don't know, but I realized that I love him and he loves me, and we're still here and we're going to work it out. So they have manifested a different outcome from what she believes may have happened in a previous lifetime. How about that one? So sometimes it may take some of us, and I won't say that we're cursed, but I got to say that some folks, I've seen, one guy did a scratch off, and he won $1 million, changed his life forever. I mean, literally, he won $1 million. And so it's like, and I talked to him one time. In fact, he donated some money to help me save my property. And I don't know if I ever got a chance to thank him. But some folks got together and pooled some money to save me from getting um, the tax department on my ass because I didn't have enough money to pay my taxes. Uh, Quite a few years ago now, but to the point though, I was in a bad way. And so, but so he went one day from barely scraping by and working all the time and doing this and that to literally having a million. Well, he told me, he goes, out of that $1 million, I ended up with about 700 grand. because the government's got to get their share. And I said, so what are you going to do with it? And he goes, I don't know. I'm going to sit on it and I'm going to figure it out as I go along. Good man. So he's helped people along the way, and a lot of people were knocking on his door to get help. And he goes, some of these people, they need to go get a job. He goes, they need something to get over. But he said, if they're looking for me to like support them, no, I'll give them a little change or help them out, or maybe I'll pay their electric bill. But he said, I'm supporting them. I'm not here to, you know, um, um, so good. And last time I heard, he was still trying to do good things for folks. So, and that's been a good 20 years ago or so, 15 years ago. So there are people who their lives change drastically one way or the other. You know, they either, have a good fortune and luck. And does that make their life well, did they plan on it? I don't know. Was it written there in their soul contract that he was going to get a scratch off and win $1 million? Or, did, blah, 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 blah. My doctor friend, he worked hard and went to school. I mean, it's not like anybody gave him a free ride, but he did have help with his parents to help put him through school. um, but it was him with good grades, and the fact that he was is talented and a good surgeon is what makes him a doctor, not the fact that he just went to school, right? So there's more to it than that. My doctor where I was at today this afternoon, I love this guy. He's a third my age. Well, he's at least half my age. Okay, maybe not a third, but he's a young kid. He's a nice kid, right? We're talking and chatting and this and that, and talking about my, bones. And he goes, "Listen, if you have any trouble getting your spine fixed," he goes, When I see," he said, "call me." He said, "I will go to bat for you and to help you get your operation on your back." He said, "We've talked about this." He said, "But as a doctor," he said, "I'll pull some strings." He said, "We'll get this done." And you like Dr. Cadis? Yeah. He said, "If you have any trouble, you call me back." And he said, "I'll see what I can do to help you get that surgery." And I was like, sweet. All right, right on, dude. But so anyway, so in general things, like when I was in jail, I could be depressed all the time. Or there were times when we could manifest a good time with a poker game or something, and we do some pull up a little joke on somebody in the kitchen that wasn't, bad or something like that. We'd hide somebody's something, or just little pranks, and which kept us smiling. There were songs in the kitchen, and Larry, the yeah, party. Yeah, we used to party in there. I used to make hooch, and in jail, it was hard. We had to get the yeast. You could ferment some stuff, but it took longer. But so, and it was very difficult to get yeast. But Victor who was the baker in the kitchen, would always get just a little bit extra. So it would take about a good tablespoonful of yeast to cook off a batch. And so sometimes he would just make a mess while he was, and then he would scrape up that little bit that was left on top of where he was making dough, and he'd scrape off that little bit. He didn't actually swipe it, but whatever was left while he was making the dough, he'd put it over in a pile, and then we'd put it in a little container, and then that little container would get a little bigger, and the next time he made something, he'd get a little more, and then when we got enough to make a batch, I'd make a batch of hooch. Now it'd give you the runs because we didn't we cooked it off in like a week to 10 days. but get you drunk. Oh, honey child, please. And then there were times when we got into the nutmeg. Oh, honey child, please. Nutmeg will mess your brain up. You will wish to God that God will allow you to let the room quit spinning. And you want a cheap high, go down to the store and buy you a container of nutmeg and take yourself about a teaspoon full, not necessarily rounded, but and with a cup of hot chocolate or hot tea or coffee or something, you down that puppy and get it in you. In about an hour or so, you talk about a cheap high. And it'll last for a while too, Jack. If you just bored with nothing to do, which sometimes that happened on the weekend, Sundays we still had to work in the kitchen, but we worked our butt off on Fridays and Saturdays. So Sunday was sort of a skate day for us, you know. Minimal preparations, minimal steam table kind of stuff. We had humongous uh, s- steamers for whatever potatoes or whatever we were cooking, giant steamers, that was almost as tall as a man, for cooking stuff. Great big stainless steel pots. But anyway, um, so on Sundays, if we had any nutmeg, then we do nutmeg on Sundays and play poker and get fried. I, you know, and then on Mondays, boy, you'd have the runs and your stomach would be upset because sometimes we was taking tablespoonfuls. I remember Larry, the not the cable guy, but he was a Cajun cook. Oh my God, could this guy cook? And he would take it. He'd go, "No, come here, have to do it like this, my friend." And and he'd swallow his coffee and he'd look around and go, "Let me get a little bit." And he'd take some money. Go, "Now you get you something, my boy." Man. Lord have mercy. Phew, nutmeg. Anyway, I know I got off the subject there, but so there were times when God, life was boring, and what are we going to do? And then Larry or somebody would come from around the back of somewhere and go, "Hey, look what I got, my friend. Get yourself some coffee, huh? We're gonna play some poker and we're gonna have it when we want to get high." And you're in jail, right? Where am I gonna go to have fun? But then you end up having a ball that day, playing poker with the guys that, in your little group that work in the kitchen, and ain't nobody bothering us because it's a Sunday, and nobody really gives it, can't go nowhere. We're locked in the kitchen. There just ain't anything to do except play cards and get high on nutmeg, you know. So, but in the worst of the places, you can find joy. So is that lucky? Well, I considered it lucky that that we could get a little nutmeg or a little bit of yeast to make some hooch. Um, and lucky enough that I was smart enough that I could hide it. We never got caught. That's the other thing. But um, so we manifested a situation to where we could make hooch and get away with it. So we manifested a crappy situation, which we could say that we were cursed. And well, I broke the law and somebody ratted on us, but still broke the law, ended up in jail and all that good stuff. But, in that, so cursed in that I got busted, cursed that I had to spend, time in jail. But it was, felt very gifted and happy in that we were able to find joy in these situations. So, having both at the exact same time, you're in jail, but you're happy. Not because you're in jail, but happy because you found some joy. So in life, life is like that, and there are people who swear that, the earth is a prison. It's the prison planet, and we're all under the thumb of the government, and we're all, well, if you're going to focus on that all your life, which there are some people used to sort of be that way, but, then you accept that you're in population in jail and you got nowhere to go and nothing to do and nothing's going to make you joyous. Eh, well, then there were those of us who were in jail who worked as trustees and who had little perks along the way, and we had our place to go in and roam around in the kitchen, and we were locked in the kitchen, but not locked in a cell. So we had a movement. We could move around. We could go get something to drink if we wanted to. If we were hungry, we'd go in the storeroom or in the cooler or in the freezer and get us out a steak and cook it if we wanted it. I mean, it was like that. And so, so you had your choices. You could quote work for the man and have all these little side things. I was beefed up, buddy, when I got out because I was eating good beef. I mean, we were getting whole sides of beef in and cutting them up, whole sides of pigs, and that's how I might cut my knuckle off and everything. But um, so there are times when life to certain people because of circumstances are absolutely going to suck. But is life in general a gift or is it a curse? Absolutely how you look at it. But I gotta say, there are some people who just seem like they've been cursed. There were times when I thought I'd been cursed. And I know there were times when I was cursed at, you know. But in the long run, after these 70 years, I gotta say, you know, there were some times when I lost my job, wasn't my fault, but there were some times I just could have handled it better. That's all. I could have handled it better. And in this life, it may not have been as bad had I just handled the situation better. Not gotten angry, not thrown shit across not punch a wall. I mean, just handled, even though it was bad information, you lost your job, you lost your income, you lost your this, that's not good. But to be pissed off and throwing things and just that never works. It is never helpful. It never helps the situation. You can blow off steam, but in the end, I broke things. you know, I almost really hurt myself from punching stuff. I mean, so we got to use a little bit of common sense. So in this, the end of it is life can be great. Even when you get punched in the gut, life can still be great. So for those of us who've had really obnoxious roller coaster rides, and some of us are still on that roller coaster as much as we'd like to get off that some bitch, it's still going up and down and all around. But here's the thing though, still hanging on to the car. You know what I mean? I'm in the back seat. Not in. I don't want to be in the front seat. I'm sorry. I'm going to sit in back and watch everybody else screaming. Of course, when they throw up, it all ends up in your face for the person in the last car back. By the way, having been a carny for a bunch of years, puke kind of ends up that way, and it flies in the face. Never mind. Oh God, the amount of puke that I have cleaned up over the years is just it's pukey. But anyway, so I think that regardless of the situations, we can figure a way around it. And it absolutely depends on our circumstances. And it depends on our intentions. It depends on our way of thinking as to whether or not something's really crappy. I mean, like that. that old Negro janitor that I knew. He loved being a janitor. He didn't make much money, but he loved being a janitor. And folks used to say, well, that old black man over there, he ain't worth nothing. He's just all, but he loved his job. So can't criticize folks for the jobs that they love. You can't look down at them because they don't make as much money as you do. Um, I, worked at Mall Aircraft, didn't make a lot of money, but I loved working on airplanes. I loved working in the tail wheel department. I loved building doors and putting them on the planes. I loved seeing them roll out of the hangar and out onto the, you know, airstrip. I hated when I lost my job at Mall Aircraft. But I loved what I was doing, you know, and sometimes circumstances just don't work out the way you want to. But does that mean that life sucks? Does all of life suck? Does the conglomeration of it suck? Depends on how you look at it again. Well, I found another job. I actually made more money. I didn't have to work in the paint department, which really I couldn't breathe and was, sick all the time. So, and ended up meeting my good friend Tommy, and we've been friends now for over 40 years. Have, met his sister. I bet, so had I not moved from Mall Aircraft, never would have met these other people. I would have never learned these other skills. So was it a good thing? I hated leaving there, but it in the long run worked out better for me. So at the time, it was like, well, I don't know about this. What am I going to do? I'm going to be 2 or 3 weeks without an income. How are we going to make it? How are we going to pay our rent? How are we going to feed ourselves? How are we going to pay the insurance? I mean, what are you going to do, right? Have made it through and weathered it all this time. So is that a curse? Was Has life always been a curse? No, there's just been some cursed times along the way. Some people's outcomes are just different. That person who lost her husband and had $1.5 million worth of property in Atlanta and down here and all around, and nice lady, a little strange, but nice lady. And she lost it all of it, every single bit of it, and was, living in the back of her car, and then she was living under a bridge, and and just living the high life, and cocktail parties and the whole 9 yards in Atlanta, and the jet set and plenty of money and traveled places and bought whatever she wanted to, and then she didn't. And that's sad because I kept telling her, I said, look, you're still alive. You still have a gift. You still know about this business. You still know people. You still have, oh, my husband died. No, yeah, okay. Your husband has been dead 5 years now. Can you move on? Just saying, you can't keep using that as an excuse. And she ended up losing it all. And she didn't believe in God anymore, and she felt that she had been cursed, and she felt that life sucked. And one could say, well, she didn't have the patience of Job, but she had all the curses that Job from the Bible had, with afflictions and losing family members and her spouse, and all of her belongings and all of the. And but the thing is she just simply could not adapt. If she could have adapted to the situation, she would not have lost it all. But because she couldn't adapt to her situation, because she had to continue to spend $100 here and there on this and that and blah blah blah, and she kept putting money on, she kept going on trips and to try to make herself feel better because she was losing her ass. And between the credit card debt and everything, everything crumbled. So we have choices to make along the way. So what choices do we make in circumstances? After the hurricane, we all helped each other clean up. We all did certain things. We all learned a lesson to have extra candles and to make sure we do have extra this or that or whatever. Um, And so we learned lessons, but at the same time, we learned as a community to, just drive around and help somebody. Trees down. I had neighbors come down my driveway because there was two pine trees across my driveway. I couldn't have gotten out without cutting them down or cutting them up. And they already had them cut up to come down to check on me. So, God bless the neighbors, right? So you learn as a community when stuff like that happens, you don't, oh well, Mr. Dave's got trees down, on his driveway there. He's never going to be able to get out. Well, it's his problem. Screw him. No, they came in and cut it up so I could get out in case. So happy 20. A little late. 222. But I think y'all get my drift on this, and it's been 2 hours I've been yapping here. But sometimes situations for whatever karma or for whatever our soul contracts are. I told my friend, I said, my aunt reminded me that as a 3-year old, um, hey Mary, how are you? As a 3-year old, I knew I was going to be a hermit, even though I didn't know what a hermit was. And I was going to live on a river and in the woods. Here I am. After all these years, I got it. And the events that happened, how I got the property, how I literally we signed a contract on a napkin and shook hands. An old hippie dude that was into Mother Earth back in the day, like me, took a chance with me, and I worked my butt off. I went, and paid him off and paid this off, but I'm still here after 40 years. So, but he had a little faith in me, and we had faith in each other. I literally signed a contract on a piece of napkin, and shook hands and gave him a down payment, and the rest is sort of history. But the fact that he gave me the chance, the fact that he had faith in me, and he financed the first couple of years himself, and but so. Then he sold the debt to the bank. But during that time though, we were buddies, and he'd come down. We did a cookout one time, and he got drunk with us, and he was a good dude. I don't know where he's at anymore or anything like that, but he gave me the opportunity. So I've had luck. I've had people, help to get me a start. I've had people when I got out of jail let me sleep on their living room floor without anything. I mean, just there's the floor. Okay, thank you. Didn't have money for a damn pill, hardly a pillow or anything. I mean, I just slept on it was an old, no offense, it was an old nigger shack. And out in the woods, it was a sharecropper's. They had literally picked it up off the ground and fixed it up, and it was an old nigger shack. Okay, one bedroom, a living room, kind of sort of dining room. It really wasn't, and then there a little kitchen. So it was like two. Well, the kitchen opened up on this end. The only room that was a room was the bedroom that had a door on it. Everything else was just open. So, and I was pleased to be able to sleep on the floor because I was not in jail. So even and I was happy. So happy, 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 happy with a sore back, you know, sleeping in an old slave quarters barn or house way out in the country, way down a dirt road, out in a field. I'm here to tell you is way off the road. I'm down the driveway down here, but no, no, no. You had to go around the curb and down the hill and down through some woods and around a ravine, and then there was the house. I just lived down the hill. So, and a beautiful place, but to the joy of being able to be out of jail and the joy of living out in the country out there because the place was beautiful. And even though I went through the curse of having to sleep on a hard wooden floor, there was still joy there. You know what I mean? So even though there's pain and suffering while you're going through it, you're glad to be there. You're happy that, the circumstances have changed. I was happy that I had the opportunity, even though I was sleeping on the floor, because I was out of jail, I had the opportunity to get a job and to do better and to have my own place again, and to manifest a better destiny for myself. And that eventually happened, but not without help. So I thank all those people before me. One considered them elders that helped me in those times of, all I need is a spot on the floor. That's all I need. Just give me the chance. So I had to make it. I had to manifest my destiny. Well, you're out of jail. Now what are you going to do? Well, I got a job, but I need a place to stay. And I think I got to ride back and forth. And all I need to do is just hunker down and save my money, and I'll get out of this. And I did. Worked two jobs, did other side jobs and stuff, plus my 9 to 5 job. Became the best I could. I became the supervisor over all the different groups, so I was the highest in the pay grade that I could be in that job. Couldn't be any better than I already was. So I'd moved up from a grunt to a supervisor, making more money. So I was always trying to do better within my own circumstances. So, manifesting, trying to manifest a better, I liked my job. I liked working for the weatherization program. There wasn't much money in it, but I got the highest pay grade that I could get. And I did a good job and lasted as long as the job did. So, working for the DOE and weatherization program, I loved it. All right. But, contracts change, the government changes, politicians change. And so I had to go look for other work, much like other things. So everything that I worked at, I did well, you know. I manifested a better me in the circumstance. So yes, you can, if you prove to your boss that you're worth it, they'll pay you extra, you know. But if you're just going to go in and do a half-ass job, then they just ain't going to pay you much attention. So do the best you can, even though your job might be weird or strange or offhand or whatever. Do the best you can and manifest a better tomorrow with what you have for your circumstance. And life and the world and stuff happens. It just does. That's just life. In some ways, some folks got it better than others. The path that they chose for whatever reason. There were times when I was envious of my of other half. Shit happens. That's right. And just he said I just always knew I was going to be a lawyer. Okay. Hey Sheila, wow, you're up late, or I'm kidding. Um, but so those of us, we choose the type of work that we do, hoping for a better tomorrow. And sometimes, you know, shit happens. How you doing, Miss Sheila? So, but does that necessarily mean that all life sucks? Have we been cursed, or is life a gift? Well, there are times when, Miss Sheila can attest to this. Sometimes you go fishing and you love to go fishing, but it doesn't mean every time you go fishing are you going to catch anything. And so you love to go fishing, but if you don't catch nothing, does that mean that life sucks? Well, you went fishing because you like to, but you like to catch fish too. But it doesn't mean that if you don't catch anything that you're not ever going to go fishing again. I mean, I know that sounds a little on the strange, weird side, but in manifesting, so if you don't go fishing, you'll never know. And you'll never know if you're going to catch anything unless you go try. I love you too, man. Um, and I really, Brian, I swear to God, the other day, it was like I was trying to remember your name. That was one thing. Okay. And I was like, who is that down there in Pensacola? Maybe if I can get my ship, my truck's been running pretty decent and spring's here, I'm looking to get out. If I can get my back operated on, I will be absolutely ready to go, doing some camping and getting away from here. And I was like, who the hell, who's that the list down there? And I just tabled it at the moment. And I was like, it'll come to me. And within an hour or so, it was like, Brian Lunsford. Oh my God. You know, uh, but anyway, for whatever reason, I thought about you, like I say, it's been within the last 10 days at least, recently in my brain. I was like, so I hope everything's going all right with you, man. I really did think I I don't make this stuff up. And the fact that you're on tonight and the fact that I was thinking about you, I'm like, oh, okay. But anyway, sleep well and I love you, brother. And y'all be safe down there, okay? I still want to come down and go sailing. I really do. I still, if I get my back fixed, I should say, when I get my back fixed, I want to rent a Hobie Cat and go sailing out there in the bay. I want to come down and rent a boat. I just do. And somebody can come with me if they want to go. They've got balls enough to go go sailing with me. Come on, y'all, to camp, my brother. Yeah, yeah, me too, Brian. I do, and I got your. Have you still got? Well, I'm listed in the phone book in Moultrie, so if you lose my phone number, I'm listed in the phone book. But I think I've got yours somewhere. And I'm now after I've lived through the heart attack and everything. And now that I got my truck running pretty good, and you know, my back is such that it is very difficult to walk at all. It's very difficult to walk. My spine is crushed. I know you haven't heard, but my lumbar area, there are no discs, and everything is just squashed. And they want to go in there and grind the bone away to relieve the pressure on the nerves, which I'm ready. And I'm a good contender for the operation and everything. Hmm. Phone. Who the Dickens? 850. Where's 850? Somebody just. Oh, that's you? Oh, okay. Medina? Okay. Well, what I was fixing is so you do have my number. What I was going to say is I got numbers wrote down in here. Let me see. Let me see if that's the same number I got wrote down in here because that's what I was going to say. I found it going through my book and looking at old phone numbers, and I was like, no, I know I had your number at one time, and I figured it was in this book. Because got Steve and Jody and Mossy Man and Doug and Barry and Teresa and Robert and Idby and Charles and wait, where's that phone number at? That's the same number I got written down, Brian. So yeah. Cosmic Convergence 850. Yeah, okay. That's the Panhandle. Yep, okay. My sister lives in Tampa and it's 813. And CC 1701. Well, I knew I had it wrote down. So when I thought about you the other day, and then I have my passwords written down in the same book that I have phone numbers in because I can't remember passwords and I don't have the same password for everything. There are variations on the theme and depending on how many characters. But anyway, so I was going through and getting the password to pay a bill and I was like, oh, there's Brian's number. So anyway, all right, my friends. It's been 2 hours and 20 minutes that I've been with you. It's been nice visiting. And I don't want anybody to give up, for goodness sakes, no. Because there are those people who roll through life and nothing really bothers them and and things go their way. They work hard, don't get me wrong, and they're persistent and they manifest what they want in life. My friend Eric the doctor, that's what he always wanted to be. And his wife's a wonderful nurse. And together they go and they heal and help people. What a wonderful thing. And for me, I was just going to be a hermit that lives on in the woods on the river. Now, what the does that mean? But that means that in my own little way, with like this YouTube channel and with people I've met, I've got the hermitage. I've invited people down here to come and, do a fire and communicate and learn and cogitate and whatever and hang out, whatever is necessary. You need a place to get away from the city and a place to go camping or whatever, right? To help folks and I've had moderate success, well, lousy uh, over the years, but I was going to say moderate success in that I have helped some people out, but they usually rip me off one way or the other. But I still did what I was supposed to do from the creator standpoint. So we do what maybe our soul contract says. Like with little bit of money that I've had, there was, you know, and with people living in a tent outside, there was three of them with two dogs. There were people living upstairs in the bedroom, and there were people that were living down on the river, and there was me living down here in a recliner, you know. Um, and between us all, there was seven of us running around here in a house that was built for maybe like four or maybe five. With we were on a water shortage and food shortage and money shortage to buy any food and just and I'm trying to help these people out and they have invaded my space and are taking advantage of me and what little bit of money I have and I feel guilty because they had helped me in the past with just odd stuff but then it got to the point where I had to tell him, I said, look, I cannot support you all anymore. You have got to find something else. I'm sorry. I love you, but I cannot support you and me both. It just ain't working. So, and I haven't heard from him since, but did my best, and we were good friends and family up to that point. But I just had to come. I just had to say, listen, I can't survive, and I'm not helping you, and you ain't helping me, and it just ain't like that. Wasn't trying to bring any drama to the chat. No, Brian, was just wanting to share. Absolutely, that's how I feel. You know me, let's have conversation as long as we're civil with one another, and I agree with you, Brian. So, you know, in my humble opinion, no sweat. So, I love you all. I do. I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and there's a lot of blessings out there in the universe, even when it doesn't seem like it. Even when it feels like the great dinosaur of life is just crapped all over your parade, continue to have faith and believe, 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 believe that even in the darkest hour, you can muddle through it, right? So each and every day, as Duggar and I go out to play, I continue to pray that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many absolute marvelous things out there from the universe. You're welcome, Miss Mary, and all of y'all. I love seeing you. I love hanging out with you. And it's been 2 hours and 25 minutes. It's 2:42 a.m. And so on this third time, which I think is very important, that law of three, which I think is important to you and me, I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you, your friends, your family, and all of your relatives and all of your relations will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings out there in the universe. Even when you don't think there's anything out there, I told this little story earlier. We were on our way home from Tennessee, had wished we'd had a little something to smoke in our little pipe, and looking over the edge of this mountain down underneath the handrail from where folks were looking out over the beautiful mountain range there in southern Tennessee, just north of the Georgia line. There happened to be a couple of really nice joints, half joints smoked that folks had dropped over the edge. So even in the wilderness time, at times, the Lord will grant you things. Boy, we don't you wish we had something to smoke? It's a long trip home and just a little bit to take the edge off, and lo and behold, you look down and there it is. So anyway, I mean, life isn't necessarily going around looking for joints, but that's not the point. Sometimes you ask for something and there it is, you know. And sometimes you have to work your butt off for it. Sometimes it doesn't come. Sometimes those presents don't show up. But when those presents do show up and there's a synchronicity there, there is joy. And it ain't about the joint or it ain't about but it's the synchronicity of it. It's like, oh my God, oh my God. I look over oh my God, look down there. Oh my God, that we were just talking about. We wished we had oh my God, God, thank you. Look, oh my, you know. And when it really happens that way, you just shake your head and go, well, thank you to the universe. So there are blessings in the universe. And thank you, Brian. I love you, brother. And I swear, if I get fixed up with this operation, I'm coming down to Florida, and I want to go sailing one more time at least before I kick this bucket. So anyway, I love you, Michelle, Mary, and Susie, and all y'all back up there, up the line. Please be safe. Okay, honestly, this is a crazy world out there, and the best thing I can tell you is we're just going to continue to have to adapt whatever situation comes up. Try to keep your frustration to a minimum, and we'll get together again and talk about some kind of shit. We'll figure something out. So anyway, I love you. I want to do a drum soon. I haven't quite figured it out how to do it yet, but I want to do a drum soon. And I also owe y'all some card readings. So I love you, and that will be coming soon. Okie doke. So cheers, everybody. I love you. Until next time, please be safe. Okay. And take care of yourself and friends and neighbors. For every time I've helped my friends and neighbors, it just always seems to be a good thing. So, and we can all be closer and better off in the long run. So be safe until next time, y'all. Love you. Bye.